Week 9 is here, and unlike the Bears defense, we actually show up here at RotoBaller. Last week, I had the Bears DST starting. Not a great call, but hey, facing Snoop Huntley and the Ravens, you thought that would be the play to make it. Then again, I should have known better than to start the Bears DST against a former Pro Bowl quarterback. That's on me. This week, fantasy managers have a couple more options this week as the Bipocalypse has come and gone and only 4 teams are unavailable this week. Those teams include the Cleveland Browns, Philadelphia Eagles, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the New York Jets. But let's be honest, nobody was starting the Jets defense to begin with. With that all said, here are 5 defenses fantasy managers can stream and start with confidence here in week number 9. And we start things off with the Green Bay Packers as they take on the Carolina Panthers. I have many fond memories of the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, in fantasy. And you know what? With the recent success of misfit quarterbacks over the last couple seasons, it felt like Andy Dalton could kind of rejuvenate his career to a degree and add his name to that list. It became apparent that Andy Dalton's career in his best days, they are clearly behind him. Against the Bills, Dalton completed 16 of 24 passing attempts for 175 yards, but he was sacked on 7 occasions. The expectation is that Bryce Young returns this week, but if you're going to allow 7 sacks to a Buffalo Bills team that entered week 8 with just 15, then the duo of Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary, they should be able to pin their ears back and do some serious damage as they each got a sack against Aaron Rodgers and held the future Hall of Famer to less than 225 yards passing last week, with much of that coming on the final 2.5 minutes garbage time. Now, up until last week, Carolina, they did a pretty good job at protecting their quarterback, so this could be a slight overreaction to a degree, but with weeks of underwhelming performances, this feels like a contest in which the Packers can look to exploit. Hey, they even forced a turnover last week. That's like 1 of 3 this season. Now, another defense I'm firing up this week. How about the Los Angeles Chargers as they head to Tennessee to take on the Titans? On Thursday Night Football, the Los Angeles Chargers, they held Carson Wentz to 15 of 27 passing for 144 yards. They limited the trio of running backs there in Minnesota, Aaron Jones Sr., Jordan Mason, Xavier Scott, to just 34 yards rushing on 11 attempts, with Scott leading the way with 16 of those yards. The Chargers secondary actually contained Justin Jefferson to 74 yards receiving on 7 receptions, with the second leading receiver being Jordan Addison, who caught 3 passes for just 26 yards. With the Chargers' Week 8 performance, they now have 8+ fantasy points in 2 of their last 3 contests, and Khalil Mack, he made his return to the lineup last week, and the Chargers, they are now trending in the right direction. Los Angeles, they would be a good start regardless of the matchup, but considering that this matchup this week is against Cam Ward and the Titans, they are an easy smash start this week, facing the Titans team that has already surrendered a league-high 34 sacks through 8 weeks. And if you're curious about the Chargers, they have recorded 22 sacks of their own this season, which happens to be the 8th most. Look for Ward to continue to receive that Derek Carr treatment. That's not a good thing. There's no cure for that right now. Another defense, how about the Jacksonville Jaguars as they head to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders? The Jaguars, they limped into their bye week, licking their wounds, whatever you want to call it, having averages 2 fantasy points per game over the previous 2 contests after leading the NFL through the first 5 weeks of the season, averaging 10.6 fantasy points per game. For Jacksonville, a date with the Raiders, this is exactly what they need to do to get back on track. The Raiders, they have allowed 19 sacks this season. That is the 13th most in the NFL, while Geno Smith and company have turned the ball over 12 times, the 2nd most this season, including 10 interceptions. 10! That's a 10! Now, what makes this matchup even more interesting, only the Bears have forced more interceptions and turnovers than the Jaguars have, who have 10 interceptions and 14 takeaways through 7 weeks. Looking at the Raiders' offense in general, they rank 31st in scoring, averaging 14.7 points per game, 27th in rushing and in passing, averaging 93.7 yards on the ground and 182.7 through the air. When you add that all up, bippity boppity boo, there's no fairy godmother that is going to help this Raiders offense. You're talking about 276.4 total yards of offense per game, the 3rd fewest in the NFL. Another defense, how about the Los Angeles Rams as they take on the New Orleans Saints? Los Angeles, they're coming off the bye week and they're heading straight into your fantasy lives this week against that Saints team. Spencer Rattler, he leads the Saints offense that averages 295 yards of total offense per game, 27th in the league. And while Rattler has done a good job of protecting the ball, his offensive line hasn't really done a very good job of protecting him. Heading into Week 8, New Orleans has allowed 20 sacks this season. That is the 10th most. And the Rams, they sit second in the NFL with 26 sacks, while Byron Young has 9 sacks himself, which is more sacks than the Baltimore Ravens, San Francisco 49ers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. After that 1-point performance a couple weeks back, fantasy managers, they were ready to throw in the towel on this Rams defense. Since then, they dropped 17 points on the Ravens and 11 more on the Jaguars in the 2 contests leading up to their bye week. On the season, LA is averaging 8.7 fantasy points per game. And if you dismiss that Week 5 contest, they were averaging 10 fantasy points per game. Hey, I'll take 10 points any day of the week. Now, the last defense I'm firing up, it is the Houston Texans as they take on the Denver Broncos. Some may be looking to fade the Texans defense this week, facing a Denver Broncos offense that has averaged 256.9 yards of offense per game this season, which happens to be the 8th most. But Houston is as close as it gets when we talk about weekly must-starts in your fantasy DSTs. The Texans, they have produced 5 or more fantasy points in all 7 games this season and have had double-digit outings in 3 of their previous 4 games. How the Texans done it? Houston, they rank first in total yards allowed, allowing just 266.9 yards per game, and have allowed a league low 14.7 points per game. Houston has 8 interceptions in 7 games, which happens to be the 4th most, and along with the 3 fumbles recovered, they have forced 11 takeaways this season. On the flip side, Bo Nix, he has thrown 5 interceptions himself. While the Texans' 16 sacks this season seems rather pedestrian, Bo Nix is going to need to account for both Donnelly Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., who can get after the quarterback as well as any pass rush duo in the league. Now, to Denver's credit, this offensive line, they've allowed a league low 8 sacks. So this is going to be strength versus strength. And if you want to strengthen your fantasy football rosters, make sure to hit that like button, hit that follow button, and head over to RotoBaller.com today for the latest news and fantasy analysis. We'll see you next time.